Good afternoon, everybody. The multi state push to put a moratorium on the mRNA injections has begun. And today I am joined by elected government officials from 4 different states who are all uniting in calling for a moratorium. And they're going to talk about the initiatives that they have in their own states to put an end to this madness. And so I'm going to have each and every one of you tell us who you are and what are you doing in your state. So Shane, go first. You're muted, Shane.
See, you told us to do that. I forgot. Representative Shane Mecklin from the state of Minnesota, House District 27A. Been in this, following the whole medical freedom thing heavily since the onset of COVID, but pretty passionate about it.
Senator Shippey.
Yeah, thank you, Nick, for having me on. My name is Brandon Shippey. I'm the senator for Legislative District 9 here in Idaho, and we did introduce a bill to place a moratorium on gene therapy products last session in the Idaho Senate and Health and Welfare Committee, and we do have plans for introducing a similar piece of legislation this upcoming session, starting in January. So looking forward to doing that.
Awesome. Brad.
Yep, pretty similar over here in Michigan. State rep in the 37th District Southwest, part of Michigan, after getting myocarditis and a heart attack after taking one of these shots and voting to supply shots for those who wanted them. I made a big mistake there, made some recognition. We have a lot of folks on the left talking about wrapping their arms around communities. Well, we need to wrap our arms around the community of the vaccine injured, those injured by these shots, especially. They need to go. And so we're pursuing that wholeheartedly here in Michigan through legislation.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I'm a Michigander myself, so that makes me happy.
You're welcome Clint, back anytime, bud.
Definitely. Clint, tell us about yourself.
Clint Didier. I'm a county commissioner in Franklin County, Washington State, a very liberal blue state, and we have been fighting and trying to get other counties to join us, but we have recommended that people do not take the COVID. We passed a resolution with the help of Laura, and we got this done. She came to our county commissioner meeting. We actually had it set up with the Board of Health meeting, and they canceled on us. It's a bi-county, Benton County, Franklin County, and they canceled on us. So we brought him into our county courthouse, and our county has put out a resolution strongly advising our citizens not to take this COVID-19 mRNA shot.
Great work. Great work. And Laura, now tell us about yourself. You are the mastermind behind getting everybody together.
I don't know about that. I have been called just a science cat herder. So I'm really good at just, following God's lead and pulling things together, pulling people together. And there's a lot of us out there doing it just behind the scenes. So the only reason anything we've done is awesome is because, God is in the middle of it, and the awesome scientists, docs, and legislators show up. And, for example, pretty much everywhere we go, often there'll be technical difficulties and a lot of barriers and we're often in opposition territory, and our docs and scientists and legislators get a lot of pressure, a lot of threats, things like that. However, they are so courageous and so gracious, and they care so much about people and God's plan for them, but they're selfless. And so I would say that's one of my favorite parts of the clown show that was the last 5 years, is the most incredible people that I've ever met. And I think my definition of superhero has changed. It's people like, you, Nick, and Dr. McCullough that show up to everything. I'm a nurse off grid in the middle of the woods on a mountain somewhere, and you guys always show up to the presentations, and people like Clint, who move a mountain to have us there, to just let the public hear the science. And then, you know, the legislators, you know, to me, you guys, all of you guys are the modern day contemporary heroes. You know, forget X-Men and all that. That's just a bunch of, you know, of fantasy. You guys are really showing what it's like to be, you know, men standing up for humanity. So that's pretty much, I'm just a girl in the background, like many of us, just herding my science cats together. So,
well, you're doing amazing work, and you know it seems like we're making real progress here, and so we couldn't have done it without you for sure. So let's go through each of your guys' states, your legislative initiatives. Give us like a breakdown of kind of what's going on, what you have filed, what's planned in the future that you can tell us, and we'll start with Shane. Tell us a bit about what's going on there. Shane, unmute.
Dang it. I probably have 3 or 4 buckets that I focus on. The largest ones are housing. That's my occupation outside of the legislature, residential, and energy, and then a lot of this medical freedom type of stuff, the COVID, the conspiracy, whatever you want to call it. And I actually have some kind of mimicking bills to Mr. Paquette's here on the transgender stuff, as well as I think it's 3219, House File 3219, which is puts the modified RNA shots into the classification, weapon of mass destruction and bioweapon classification, which was an existing statute, last updated 2002. When that thing was introduced, I did get quite a few emails from several doctors with some started out with very colorful language, which is always a good way to get you to read the rest, right? And calling me all kinds of interesting names, but it was cute because they always said messenger RNA, and if you read the bill language, it always refers to modified RNA. So clearly they didn't even read it. But so that one, and as far as making like ivermectin hydroxychloroquine over the counter, basically, and several others. I don't know if I can remember them all or have time, but in that realm, it's you know, we see so much of different things coming at us, and they said back then, you know, it was only months before it was, you know, my body, my choice, and then all of a sudden it's no jab, no job, like 6 months, 12 months later, and now, I mean, you see, you know, we have this amazing thing in Minnesota, like we seem to be making national news because it's like fraud, and a lot of it had to do with Health and Human Services, and a lot of the COVID funds that were put out there. So. I unfortunately, I think now I have probably one of the most famous governors for the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, whatever it's been. But, you know, he was very instrumental and huge on pushing and coercing and bribing kids, advocating. In fact, the Michael Osterholm was our kind of state equivalent of Anthony Fauci. And then the commissioner for Department of Health. And there was a guy from the Mayo Clinic, a doctor. They're constantly pushing this with their weekly press conferences. And the commissioner and the doctor from Mayo, we didn't find out till 2 years later, were both severely adversely injured from the COVID shot. And they never said a word until they were both, she was no longer the commissioner. That was when it came out. So there's a lot to uncover and a lot to unwrap, and a lot of stuff that's been hidden. And the truth eventually will come out. So, and I think there's, you know, it's not something I thought when I was 21 years old I was going to become like a target by big pharma, but what the hell, here we are.
Well, Shane, you're doing great work. Well, I want to ask you one more question, Shane. So what's your future outlook on this? What's the pushback been? How compromised is the legislature? So
we are in a historical time in Minnesota legislature. It's only the second time it's ever happened. And the first time was 1979, where our House is exactly evenly divided at 67-67. and the Senate is 33-32 or 33-34. So the Democrats have a 1-seat majority there. I'm being told by friends that there are several Democrats now that have not publicly stated it, but they are experiencing very significant issues from taking the COVID shot.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of internal conversations, seeing if they'll be brave enough to come over. I need one of their votes. Nothing passes out of the House without 68, and all our committees are dead even as well. So we need one vote to even get it out of committee. It's just going to be a matter of if they have the courage to go there.
Definitely. Well, we'll keep pushing and we'll keep putting out the information. So, Senator Shippey, tell us what's going on in your state.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Nick. It was Laura who first came to me and said, "Hey, would you consider this was back when I was running for Senate? Would you consider helping us out with this issue of going after these dangerous, poisonous shots that are being pushed on the people of Idaho?" And I committed to helping her out with that. Very much care about this as well. Idaho is not as bad as some other states. Obviously, as far as freedoms go, we really didn't have it pushed on us in the way that others did. So praise God for that. But it was still promoted by the government officials here and advertised, those type of things as well. We do have a health district that has discontinued it to administer and so forth. And Laura was very instrumental in pushing for that. That's actually the health district that I live in. So very thankful for the courage of the county commissioners that made that happen as well. So this last session, we had a bill printed. We got an RS, and we called it the Doug Cameron Act. So if you're all familiar with him, maybe you are, maybe you aren't. He's a rancher here in Idaho who was permanently disabled, permanently crippled in a wheelchair now because of the Johnson & Johnson shot. And so we named it after him. He was very instrumental in testifying on that bill. We did have a good testimony committee hearing. We didn't bring it to a vote. There seemed to be a little bit of opposition, of course, on both sides. We had more of the liberty-minded folks saying, "Hey, people should be left alone to do their own thing," and then of course the other side that says, "Hey, no, this brought hope in the darkness. This was hope in the darkness, and this was the savior of humanity, essentially." And then we were saying, "Hey, this isn't a liberty issue. This isn't a savior. This is a poisonous treatment that is killing people." But it's not a liberty issue because there is no informed consent on this. The regulatory bodies who were supposed to be standing in the gap and making sure that all the proper protocols were followed with this, it did not happen. And so this is essentially the federal government funding and promoting and pushing this on the population. And so we as the state of Idaho have an obligation to stand in the gap. And so this is not just simply a liberty issue saying, "Hey, you do what you want." This is a government promoted, government funded poison that's being mass distributed to the people. So the state of Idaho has an obligation to stand in the gap on this. And so that's really what we did. We weren't able to make enough traction last session. We are bringing back a bill this session. We do plan on, we're doing a lot more groundwork. It'll be a little bit different. What we apply the bill to. We do have some carve outs. We're trying to make it as amendable as possible to as many people because we want to get something done and something through. But we see a lot of headway because a lot of the folks even in higher places are understanding this is a major problem we have created. And it's just going to be a matter of admitting that and then moving forward to come up with a solution for this. We can't deny it. It's undeniable that what we have done as a state and as a nation with this. And so it's just going to take courageous leaders to actually step up and do the right thing. And I think we're seeing that in we've had some good opportunities for some good meetings recently. And so we're really happy and excited about that. I think we have a really good shot getting this through and getting it become law here in Idaho, and I'm hoping we can really lead the nation with this.
Well, great. That's awesome. I'm excited to see the progress in the next session. So when does the next session start? Like
January 12th is our first day of session, and it starts a little bit slow. Likely we won't have anything introduced until end of January, 1st of February, and we'll just have to see how it goes. We've got a good health and welfare committee in the Senate and a pretty decent one in the House as well. So I think we've got a good opportunity there. We've got a lot of like-minded legislators, kind of on all sides, who are understanding this is a real problem. This isn't a partisan issue. This is an issue that we need to follow the science. We need to stop being simply emotional about this. And what I've seen, unfortunately, from our opponents is not that they bring any science. We bring the science, we bring the facts, and our opponents bring oddly religious stories, how that they were without hope in this world. And lo and behold, a savior came, and the savior of humanity. And it's very much like testimonial meetings, like at a church or something, but regards to this vaccination being the savior. It's really, really bizarre, honestly. So it seems though that it's almost a religious commitment at this time, and it's not actually people following the science. And so I think if we can really show that's the case, it's going to snowball.
Yes, and that's for sure. That's for sure. Vaccine religion has become widespread and drilled into people's brains for the past over 60 years. So yeah, it's hard for some people to come to the realization that injectable products can cause death and serious adverse events. So, well, great work, Senator Shippey. So, Brad, tell us what's going on in Michigan.
Yeah, I think Senator Shippey just put it very, very well, clear and concise. We're in a similar boat here. I have the legislation, House Bill 4778, to ban these things. But yeah, when you've got, organizations like the AAP, AMA, all supporting these things, like they support, blocking the puberty of children and calling it science, even though it's not based on science, it's anti-science, right? But that cult type religion around vaccines is difficult. We've got one chamber of majority. During COVID, we had two chambers with the House and the Senate, where we were able to block a lot of initiatives like vaccine passports and things like that, overturn our governor's executive orders, which were banning gardening materials during that time. People couldn't even go get lawn, gardening stuff in this state. And we're still dealing with that. But what we have is a very active oversight committee. So we're looking into that Henry Ford inconvenience study. We're peppering them with questions and saying, well, if that study's flawed, well, why don't we carry one out on its own merit then? Why don't we do it right? So when you put these people to task, especially when they come into committee, we had the president of the American Medical Association who was telling us in oversight, saying, Bobby Mukamala, he was saying that, well, we're losing so much trust in the medical field. I'm like, well, do you think that might be related to, recommending these COVID shots for 6-month-old babies and pregnant women? That could be part of this, right? Especially when everybody is starting to know someone who's had adverse reactions. I was talking to a leading toxicologist at Michigan State University, Norbert Kaminsky, and he was saying, yeah, these things are bad. They're terrible. I'm like, well, are you going to speak up about it? And he's like, well, I'm at the end of kind of my career now, and yeah, I could do that. But he sympathizes with a lot of these new doctors who, that they'll lose their jobs. I had two other colleagues who had heart attacks after getting the COVID shot, myself included. And all of our doctors said a very similar thing. They're like, yeah, we think this is related to that shot, but we can't say it publicly. And that's something that we have to get them air support. Some of these doctors that maybe aren't as, strong and courageous as you guys who are leading the way, you and Dr. McCullough. But we got to get there, and the tide is turning, and we've got to get all the momentum we can around this. So the House bills that we have here in Michigan, we're working our best to get those stories out there and talk about those people who are ostracized, and that's the vaccine injured.
Awesome. Well, Brad, have those bills been filed already? Yeah.
House Bill 4778.
Awesome. When was that? I missed that. I gotta.
Yeah, it was a few months ago. We also have, like Senator Shippey mentioned, we have a lot of liberty-minded individuals who are saying, well, people should have the option, but really it does come down to that informed consent. So we have a couple of other approaches that we're considering talking about, well, doctors should give informed consent before they administer these shots, because we're in a predicament in a purple state like Michigan.
Definitely, definitely. Well, great work, great work. Absolutely fantastic. And so we'll move on to Clint now. Clint, what's going on in Washington?
Well, sadly say we have nowhere close to the state representatives or the senators or a governor that would stand in the right direction of this.
Mhm.
It all came to me back in 2010 when I announced my running for the U.S. Senate. And I was up in Okanagan doing an event. And when I left, a person handed me a pamphlet and it said Agenda 21 and you. And my daughter was working with me on the campaign. I had her drive and I read that. That's when I was introduced to this whole concept that they believe that the world is overpopulated and that there is going to be a mass killing off of people. And it's not hidden. The World Economic Forum, they have published this. It's out there. If anybody wants to research it, it's there. You can read it. They want to depopulate the globe. They think that we're going to use up all the natural resources. And then as I moved through and I didn't, can't win the U.S. Senate in this state. It's blue. It's rigged. We have rigged elections. We are now attacked. The Trump administration is suing the state of Washington for the voter rolls right now. We're hoping. We just had a meeting last night. A group that I have. It's called the Washington Patriots PAC. We are trying to get constitutional conservative Christians elected in the state of Washington, not only to the House and the Senate, but to the school boards, to the city councils, to the commissions throughout the state. We're trying to change our state, and it's an uphill battle, but we're working hard at it. But being introduced to that and watching history as I've aged through 25, and it came to fruition with this COVID-19. This is something they dreamed up 50 years ago and finally released it during Trump's administration. This was all planned out. And these COVID shots are messing with the DNA of the body, the proteins attached to the heart. I got to be honest with you. As much as I talked to my siblings and my mother, they all took the COVID-19 shots. My brother now has proteins attaching to his heart. He claims that it wasn't attached to this COVID-19 shot, and I disagree with him. We don't get angry with each other. I'm praying to God that he will see the light, get into using some ivermectin, because that will, and they have proven that ivermectin cures cancer. Now I just read a report where you can put it on skin irritations, rosacea, and some other things, and ivermectin in the cream form will help you cure that. Big Pharma doesn't want anybody to know this. Big Pharma stands to lose a lot of money if we use the simple things as ivermectin and the other ones that they have claimed that they are just horse medicine is what they were saying. But I'm doing what I can here in little Franklin County, Washington, and informed consent was the one big item that we put on there, that these people, yes, we suggest you don't use this shot, but please get informed. And we gave them the opportunity. Laura and the doctors that came there were just fantastic. Let me tell you what, there was a big resounding voice coming back at us, thanking us for this information. So Laura, thank you so much for coming into Franklin County and help educate the people.
Oh, great work. Absolutely great work. In the Washington state, the beast system is operating there quite drastically. And so, yeah, we got to change that. That's for sure. And that'll obviously be the hardest state perhaps to get any of these bills through, for sure. But Laura, so tell us, what are your thoughts on all of this and all of these initiatives? It seems like there really is some good progress going on.
I do believe there is good progress. I realize it all seems so overwhelming. And each of the legislators here, for example, and Commissioner Didier, they're all working within the sphere that they have been placed. They have, God's placed them in an authority in their area, in their district, or in their county. And, Mr. Didier, the only reason that we were even able to come there was because you had authority in your county and you really opened the doors for us to be there and to just share the truth, regardless of the immense pressure that was upon you. I remember the health board there, they were all afraid they would be fired. They were threatened. I heard there were emails from from their health and welfare, state level going around, don't listen to us, things like that. I mean, I was getting a lot of feedback, and, but yet you still allowed the rebellious act of discussion of discussing science. How isn't it interesting, almost Orwellian in 1984 in The Flesh, where science is an act of rebellion now, an actual real scientific discussion. And if you say the truth, you get fired. And there's Mr. Holter, if there's a couple of points that the gentleman made that I would like to speak to, if that's okay, just for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay. One was, Representative Paquette mentioned that he had been harmed by the jab, and I am so sorry that happened to you, Rep. Paquette. And I'm so glad you said something, because a lot of people have kept it silent. Another hat that I wear, and I'm only speaking my opinion with this, as we try to crush the gene therapy immunizations. But another hat that I wear is I am a volunteer for React 19, and they have given out $1.2 million in $7,000 to $10,000 scholarships for the injured, because I understand your compassion for them. We get letters every day from military and just the civilian population. They have been left and abandoned. And, Breanne Dressen, one of the co-founders, said that they feel like they are the lepers in the time of Jesus, where they have just been abandoned. They are ostracized. They have lost so much. And a lot of times, a couple of points when everyone is having these committees, and you would like, for example, injured to show up, and it's very hard for them to. It's not because they don't want to, but to other legislators who are listening to this out there that we hope to inspire today, understand that the reason the injured aren't just pouring in at these tests to give testimony is because no one is helping him. They've lost their health, their money, their finances, friends, family, and their jobs often. And if they're hanging on by a hair to the job the best they can because they need the insurance and they're just sick as can be, understand they can't lose anymore. They have lost so much, and they have watched time and time again people fight, people stand up, they lose everything. And so, again, I just say, God bless you all for standing up and putting your neck out there, because I know that my colleagues have been threatened. They've lost their jobs, their licenses, their entire businesses. But they are the Dietrich Bonhoeffers of today. And, if any legislator who has been placed in a position of authority, and it's by God, if you believe in a God, God puts people in place and he takes people out of that place. So if a legislator is there, even if you avoid the heat of this humanity crushing human carnage of a poison, which is the gene therapy vaccinations and all of the other issues, because, Rep. Paquette is a champion for the transgender issue, protecting children from mutilation. And even if you manage to avoid any of these big fights, maybe you have these big aspirations, or something, the net is going to close on you too. So this is your chance. Any legislators listening at this video, you've been placed here for a reason, for such a time as this. And, God will open the doors for you, and you have to be fearless, like these guys on this show today. And it gives you, courage is infectious, and people will follow you. And so any legislator that does stand up like these guys, remember, Nick Holcher, you can reach out to me. We will pull as many professional subject matter experts as you need. We also have versions of the bills to give to you. For example, Senator Shippey is going for children and pregnant women this year, right? And we got the signal that they would most likely approve a 2-year moratorium. Well, that gives us time to get information out there more. I don't see it as a loss because it's just 2 years of a moratorium, because I'm not done. We will get the whole thing, but this is tip of the spear. And then there's brave Representative Mecklin. He's going full bioweapon. And so every legislator that I talk to, and we're almost getting about 15. I'm pushing for 15. My colleagues are all pushing for 15 from many organizations. Nick is pushing. We're giving just already the language. We're just sending it to you. You can take it, make it your own. It can be very simple. We have like 1-page language. And then we're also sending out John Fleetwood's language, Dr. Sandstone's language. I mean, Dr. Sandstone's is full bioweapon language. John Fleetwood's is more intricate with also penalties. They're all fantastic. And it's really however you feel called, any way that you can hold the line for humanity. We just, any legislator, a lesser magistrate, we just hope that you're inspired by these gentlemen and stand with us and push, because, my Lord of the Rings reference, I love Tolkien, and, we need a whole bunch of you, to distract the eye of Sauron. So one of us can get across the finish line and, throw the mRNA gene jabs into, Mount Mordor anyway,
we have to do that. We have
yeah.
to do that, and we will do it. And the first bill that gets through, that will set off the chain reaction that cannot be stopped. And so, the more initiatives we have, the better the chance will be at getting to that goal. And we will get to it. The evidence is simply undeniable. We uncover more shocking things by the week now. We just found mRNA in somebody about almost 4 years after his last shot, and plasmid DNA in his skin. So we're finding out proof of fraud and lies. We were lied to that these would stay in the arm and not stay in the body for 4 years. We were told they would degrade in 2 weeks or less. And so it's all coming crashing down. So I want to give each of you a chance. We'll go through one more round, where you tell our audience something you think is very important, something that you want to tell people that you think is critical as we move forward. And we'll start with Shane. You got to unmute.
There we go.
Okay.
Wanted to touch on a couple of things. So, like Laura just said, that I went all in on weapon of mass destruction. Actually, it's either House File 3151 or 3152, which was a simple bill banning all mRNA for not only humans, produce, livestock, across the board, everywhere. And then it was Dr. Sandstone that reached out to me and said, you do realize it already exists in your statute, that it puts it in a classification of weapon of mass destruction. And I said, please tell me where. And so he pointed it all out. I read through it, and it's interesting because, and then some of the heat I took on it, the doctors, like, this is not my language. This is language that was last updated in 2002. So this was a legislative body long before my time. Something that Senator Shippey said, a lot of people push back saying, well, it's a liberty issue, you should allow them to have it. There's been plenty of people talking about the fact that it's transmissible from one person to another. So sure, you could let them have it, but if that person lets their child have it and we don't let our child have it, but they end up dating and, kiss or something, can they transmit it from one person to another? That's where liberty ends. You could do in your yard with your land what you want until it adversely affects your neighbor's land, if you will. So, and then I sent this to Laura the other day, but on October 8th, which I found this kind of amazing, but the Alliance of Indigenous Nations classified this exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Even citing U.S. Code 18, then 175, Section 175. So it's like you said, Nicholas, it's spreading. I heard early last week that there's rumors out that the FDA may put a black box warning on these shots for up to like age 3 or something, which is the start of the unraveling if they actually put a black box warning on them. Because if it's bad for 0 to 3, well, then it's probably bad for 5 to 7, and that's going to be bad for 7 to 10. I mean, it seems kind of ironic that they were going to pick a small age group, but that kind of goes back to the bill that Senator Shippey is talking about the first 2 years. And Laura and I have talked about this. This stuff is really important. And as we were talking before we started this, there's a lot of parallels. And the other thing I want to touch on quick is we often get told, like, who the hell are you to draft a bill or put forth a bill that you know nothing about? I'm sure both Senator Shippey and Representative Paquette have drafted bills that are so outside of their expert level, because you may have auto mechanic come to you, or a teacher, or an agricultural person. I have agricultural bills. Do I know 2 hoots about farming? No. Do I have farmers that come and educate me? Absolutely. So it just because we don't have a medical degree doesn't mean we don't do research. We don't lean on the smartest people we can find. And at the same time, I don't know, each of your districts are different. In Minnesota, a House district is 42 to 44,000 people. One person is elected to go represent them. Every walk of life exists in each one of these districts. So whether I'm a medical doctor or not, I'm not a nuclear engineer either, but I have a lot of nuclear bills. So it's a very unfair thing, because when we have these groups that come to us, whether it's an agricultural community, what have you, then it's our job to go to have them teach us what the issue is, and then learn about it, and then go pitch that and try to pass that bill to get them some relief. So that's where I see it. And you actually asked, Nicholas, you asked Senator Shippey when he goes back. He's in January. I go back February 17th. The fun part will be when Brad comes back up to ask him when he goes back. Little inside humor there.
Well, Shane, that's those are some good words. Those are some good words. Good, it's disappointing that they just say, "Oh, well, you're not an expert. You're not a scientific expert. So how could you do that?" Well, nobody else is doing it, right? Nobody else seems to care that the population's being systemically poisoned, damaged, disabled, and killed, right? And so that appears to be where we're at. And so we need everybody on deck here, because it's of vital importance to the health of all of America. And yeah, when you brought up a vaccine transmission, that is very real. A paper came out a few months ago. Unfortunately, it just wiped off of the server mysteriously, but they documented in half of the unvaccinated pregnant women they tested, they found Pfizer mRNA in their placentas. So it's possible sexual transmission, but regardless, that is violating the bodily autonomy of innocent bystanders. And so, yeah, this is that's not about liberty. So, Senator Shippey, give us what you think is very important.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. That was well said, Shane. The attacks that I received often in emails and from the media, the local media here, the Idaho Statesman, in fact, they attacked me multiple times on this. So I'm a sprinkler contractor, and as my normal trade, we're a part-time legislature. We're in session 3 months out of the year. And that was in every article that they ran about my bill, was that I was a sprinkler contractor, and how dare I have anything to say about this issue. And as Shane so eloquently put, we're not experts in everything. We cannot be experts in everything. I ran a bill on dealing with some educational issues, and it went through the education committee, which I'm not on. But I'm not a teacher. I'm not an educator. but nevertheless, I was able to speak to the issue because I was educated on the problem that was needed to be fixed. And so it's a complete ad hominem fallacy. It's not addressing the argument that I'm bringing. It's simply attacking me to discredit the argument by not actually dealing with the facts themselves. So I would say on this issue in particular, I think the most important thing for especially a lot of legislators in our legislature here in the state of Idaho is just to understand what the nature of this issue, that it is not a liberty issue here. This has been, we have been lied to as a people. There is fraud on this issue. And this is really the state of Idaho standing in the gap between the people of Idaho and the federal bureaucracies in collaboration with big pharmaceutical companies that are not being transparent and forthright about what they're offering and doing to the people of Idaho. So that's, to me, it's not a liberty issue here. It's the state of Idaho doing their job and standing in the gap. So that's what we intend to do. As Laura mentioned, that the legislation that I'm bringing will place a 2-year moratorium for 18-year-olds and younger, and our goal is as well to include pregnant women, because those are those babies that are in the womb also are included in those under 18. So that's why we want to make sure that those are at least our high priority, and place a 2-year moratorium. This will give enough pause to start investigating. And then also we will have a few carve-outs. Those are concerns that people have, and we can, more than happy to, of course, share any of the language of the bill that we have some carve-outs on. I think those are valuable carve-outs. I think they have a purpose. We have a carve-out for gene therapies to be used in cancer and other experimental treatments. And then also, if there's a controlled way that these can be, that true informed consent can happen, then it could be administered in those small cases in a controlled setting where research can still be done. But this is not done in research. This is just widespread application to the general population. And so that's what we're trying to put a moratorium on, just put a pause on, say, hey, we need to look at this. We need to actually listen to what the science is saying, and not continue to throw billions and billions of dollars to these big pharmaceutical companies using largely public funds to do this. So that's what we're after. And I definitely appreciate the opportunity, Nick, to be on this show.
Well, thanks for coming on, and thanks for sharing these important initiatives. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next few months. So, Brad, what are some final thoughts that you want to tell our audience?
Yeah, well, I believe truly in representative government. I liked hearing some of the backgrounds, Senator Shippey and Shane there. With this, I get that pushback. I was a former teacher, and the first thing that I did with my students is I asked them, well, do you even know how to ask a question? If you know how to ask a question, then can you troubleshoot your way to an answer? In the legislature, that's our role. That's our job. And so you hear, trust the experts. Well, my question was, who are the experts? Mm-hmm. And that got me audience, with the president of the American Medical Association and many others. And they end up telling me, well, they're not an expert, even though they're a doctor or what have you. And I ask them these basic questions about some of these issues. And then they put me in touch with these other individuals who are just sharing the talking points. And when you have audience with these people, we as legislators have this unique opportunity to really pierce through that. And I really enjoy that. I believe what happened to me happened for a reason. I believe in providence with a capital P. I know Laura got a little spiritual there, which I very much appreciate. You need people that are able to stand on the solid rock and be able to pursue these answers, because that's what the public calls us to do, especially when you have a lot of treacherous situations, a lot of people who are injured, a lot of people who are swept under the rug. And so here in Michigan, we're on the defense. We have our governor and a lot of my colleagues on the left who are trying to pursue another state of emergency because our vaccination rates are going down. And that's, a call to us to have more oversight, to really call these people in and to talk about science. Because I will say, a lot of the emails that I get opposing my bill to ban the gene therapy vaccines and things like this, I'll invite them in. I'll say, let's walk through the VAERS data then. Can you do that for me? Let's get you in front of the committee in a formal hearing. And a lot of these, they don't show up. They won't do that. And so our goal is to simply pursue truth, pursue what is right. And we do that wholeheartedly, and we enjoy the fellowship. I will say, are encouraged by all the people on this call here in Michigan. So keep it up, because the dam is breaking on this. And I think in due time, history will vindicate those who have been attacked and, called anti-science, anti-vax, whatever. Pursuing truth and doing it with grace, I think, is key. Prasad put out a memo, a 3,000 word memo about the 10 children at least that have been killed by the COVID shot. And I go to the words of Retzef Levi on the ACIP there. He said, we need to be a little more humble when we go about these conversations. And when you have someone attacking you and you have a gentle response to them that's genuine, that changes the day. And I've been trying to hold myself to that in every interaction that I have with people. And I think that's what's most important right now. That's what we need to do.
Awesome, Brad.
Hey,
Keep
Brad,
up
when
the
you going
great
back
work.
in session?
I'll be out there next Tuesday. We have a full-time legislature here in Michigan, so we have a lot of energy to this cause, among others. So,
Well, fantastic. And what you're doing is very brave, as well as everybody else on this call. This is really essential, and we're very happy that we have people like you guys representing us in this catastrophic situation. So, Clint, tell us what are some final thoughts you want to share?
First off, I want to thank Brad and Shane and Brandon. You are shining the light of truth. You're putting the light of truth. And I got to say that, Brad, the last thing you just said there, we got to be more humble. I used to get wound up and pretty loud, and I said things that didn't get me elected. And I appreciate that you guys are in this position, and I thank you so much. But I just want to elaborate a little bit on what Shane said, and that was about the animals. I'm a farmer. I raise crops. I refuse to raise crops that are Roundup ready, because they've changed the chemistry of the plant. I believe that spraying Roundup on a plant close to harvest is going to put that into a person's body. And I completely disagree with vaccines for cattle with this mRNA. Now, I just had a confrontation with my vet, and I called him and I said, because we never did bangs vaccinations on cattle before. And then we did it for 2 years because our cattle can't cross state lines without this bangs vaccination silver tag in their ear. And I said, what does the bangs vaccination do? So I looked it up. I researched it. It was supposed to stop premature births and aborting of calves. Well, we only had it for 2 years. I called my vet and I said, is the mRNA ingredient in these vaccination shots? And he goes, what's the mRNA? What are you talking about? I have an expert that didn't know what the mRNA part of the shot was. I had to educate him. And I said, I really don't feel comfortable giving these cattle this shot anymore, because they are trying to get this into everybody's body. That's why the shedding's going on. This is what the research was done in the Wuhan lab by Fauci. And by the way, where is Fauci? Has anybody seen him lately? Is he a rat hiding in a hole somewhere? We got to find this guy and find out what he has done to the American, not just the American, but the human race. But yeah, I'm being very, very cautious of these shots in my cattle, because we gave them 2 years. We gave them the bangs vaccination. And last year we had premature aborted deaths. We never had it before, but now we're having it. So I'm not giving my cattle any more shots. I'm going the natural way with my animals. Sadly to say, though, the 2 years I put it in them, are they giving it to their calves? We've already heard that this stays in the body for 4 years with some individuals. This is very alarming. And I got to tell you, I just want to thank these 3 men. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good fight. Finish the race and keep the faith. Thank you, brothers. In Lord Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you, Clint. I want to bring up one thing. You mentioned animal vaccines. I just want to quickly bring up the self-amplifying RNA particle injections currently being administered to dogs and cats in the United States. It's called Novavax NXT, and it was approved by the USDA last year. And some people, they're taking their animals to the vets. They get them vaccinated. They come back, and then they have the package insert of what the vaccine was, and they find it's the self-amplifying version. So they're not even being told that. So I think that's a very serious situation, because this self-amplifying particles are probably shedding onto the human owners through biological fluids of the animals, including saliva or feces. And so this is very worrisome. So when they can't, when humans don't take the shots, they start to force them onto animals. Very, very disturbing. So Laura,
Yeah.
give us your final thoughts. What are the next steps? And tell us, where can legislators contact you? I see your email right below your name. So yeah, tell us.
Okay. Yes, sir. Well, my final thoughts are, one, first, I always want to give some love to my beloved injured friends. You know, I'll never stop, and my colleagues will never stop until there's compensation and treatments. And, you know, if anybody needs treatment, you can always reach out to, there's a couple of great groups, but React 19 is the one I understand the most, and they are injured, helping injured. So you can always find them online and connect with doctors on their private list. Obviously, doctors hide a lot, but there's a whole bunch. We don't have enough yet, but working on all 50 states. Anyway, I just always want to make sure that injured have some outlet. You know, reach out to React 19, and they will do their best to connect you with a compassionate and competent doctor. And then for your healing journey. Regarding the legislative authority, I just want to point out, because you guys all said it so beautifully, as a constituent, I want to, you know, let other constituents know, especially those that want to write in and say, stay in your lane. Because I know Senator Shippey gets that. I hear a lot of people getting that same language of, oh, you stay in your lane. You're not a doctor, or this or that. But we do not elect our public officials because they are of any particular profession. Sure, some are doctors, some are business owners, some are lawyers, some are teachers, some are moms, and so, or dads. But we elect them for their character. We elect them for their work ethic, and we elect them for their discernment. And then if people don't like that anymore, they can unelect them. But they have every authority to be in every lane because they represent everyone in their district, and their constituents voted them in for those three reasons. And so they have every authority to contend for the health, wealth, safety, essentially. They have every opportunity and duty to contend for their citizens. The other part is the pushback that everyone will get. It's all the same, because we've done 25 plus presentations, and in opposition territory, we all get the same thing. It'll be, I saw body bags. You'll get, I saw body bag. You'll get, there was no hope until the vaccine, and you'll get, it stays in the arm for 2 weeks and it doesn't travel. And we have, definitely there's so much evidence base to show. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of people in multiple groups that show that the body bag issue was often hospital protocol, and a suppression of like ivermectin, quercetin. I have 12 pages of how to help people with COVID. And so there were alternatives. So anyway, every single thing that people can push back against, then it comes to the science. We have proven already, especially the Japanese biodistribution study, and over 4,000 studies. We keep some at React 19. There's some at the COVID Index. Nick, you have some studies on your website. Anyway, the science is just overwhelming about the harm of these gene therapy immunizations. So, and we have the science for that, and we crush it. We crush it at every interaction, and we do it respectfully and humbly too, because we never win if we're sassy. Anyway, I've never seen such opening up a can of truth bombs with such respect, and that definitely shuts the mouth of the lion, is those truth bombs with respect and humility. Let's see. The other part is you'll get that it's people's choice, a liberty issue. That one is a very key one. It will show up in every single conversation, because the libertarian groups will not want to help you. And I love libertarians, and I have a lot of friends that are very libertarian. But the argument for that is that this is a non-market product, 100%. And if you don't believe it, look at Brooke Jackson and Kirk Moore's lawsuits. The DOD themselves, BARDA, DARPA, came out to defend, to be the opponent to Brooke Jackson and Kirk Moore. The DOD and BARDA themselves came out to put Kirk Moore in jail for 35 years for not giving that COVID shot. So in other words, the veil was lifted. So in other words, we can prove systematically that it was not a market product. It was a DOD countermeasure. Now, what that means is that if the government put it into place, our government, whatever level, county, state, especially state, has every authority and duty to hold the line against it until it can be reassessed, and they will follow you. When 15 states push moratorium bills, if several get across the finish line, the feds will follow, because it's the public speaking from the bottom up. It's a groundswell of awareness. And every time we have a public presentation or conversation or committee meeting that actually brings in these subject matter experts and the victims in your state, this is public record. It's the first time that many of your constituents will ever see it. That's why you have to bring it forward, because otherwise everybody's getting their information and their science from media that's brought to you by Pfizer. In these public hearings in the people's house, they're hearing some of this for the first time. Some people are still just figuring out shop bad, and they're hearing it because you guys were brave enough to bring it, any legislator and commissioner like you, Clint. Let's see. And then for any help with this, if anybody that hears this, a legislator, and you just feel called to do this, you can reach out. My email is right down there, ldemarie@protonmail.com, and I will move mountains the best I can, God willing, to just connect you with any subject matter expert, that I know. I'm not cool. I don't know everybody, but between all of us, we know somebody to be able to, come to your committee hearing. And, I definitely pull from my friends like the McCullough Foundation, Children's Health Defense, our local, just my whole science team with Dr. Kirk Moore, Dr. Kim Biss, Dr. Thorpe. Between all of them, we all know pretty much everybody in the fight. And so I will move mountains to help get legislative or subject matter experts there. And I'm free, by the way. This isn't like I have no organization. I don't take any money. I don't take donations. And I'm really just a nobody. So I will just, bust a move to help get people to your committee hearing the best I can. So, and there's lots of people like me. So anyway, I won't quit. So well, God bless you,
Laura. Thank you, Laura. We're very lucky to have you in this fight, and you're doing very, very important work, as well as everybody else here today. I want to thank everybody so much for all of your efforts over the past few years and for coming on the show today and sharing all of this vital information. And I'm almost certain based on all the mounting evidence and all of this multi-state push, that we will have at least one bill get through in 2026, and we will get these off of the market and put an end to this madness. So thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome.